Everybody, welcome back to Be Better Every Day, the podcast where we talk about self-improvement, mental health, relationships, the ups and downs of becoming the best versions of ourselves.
We're your hosts, Josh and Matt, just two friends on a journey to level up in life, get in shape, and break free from bad habits, one day at a time.
No fake motivation, no perfection, just real talk, real struggles, and real growth.
So if you're working on yourself, figuring life out, or just need a little extra motivation, you're in the right place.
All right, let's get into it. We have a special guest today. We have Lynn Lewis with us, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her story and how that story led to what she does now. How you doing, Lynn?
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. Yes, so my story is, excuse me, around the death of my son. Um, his name is Daniel Brooks Lewis. Daniel was a professional firefighter for the city of Richmond, Virginia. And on July 29th, 2019, Daniel did not show up for his shift. And my husband got called from his crew, and no one heard from Daniel, did not know about Daniel's whereabouts until 6 days later on August 4th, the night of Sunday, August 4th, when authorities showed up at our house to say that he had been found 5 hours away in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he was deceased. And so that's where my story about this journey began. Um, and shortly after, actually 7 months after his death, I made a declaration to myself that I was not going to die with my child. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was gut-wrenching, unexplainable, heartbreaking, but I knew that that would be a part of my life for the rest of my life. So I made the decision that I was not going to die with my child. I was going to move forward, and I was not just going to move forward, just living, just surviving, but I was going to thrive in what I call the aftermath of his death. And to this day, that's what I've been doing. Has it been easy? No, no, no. Some days it's really hard. Some days, even 6 years later, I still would prefer to cover my head with the pillow and just let the world go by for a few days. But I get up and I keep going because, as I mentioned to you all before we came on, if I can make a difference in the life of just one person, then it's worth me getting up every day. It's worth me telling my story. As I say, I'm trying to shut down this Survivors of Suicide Loss Club. I want no other mother, father, loved one to ever experience this life. So that's a little bit of my story, and that's how I got to where I am today. Today I am an author, contributing writer, speaker, certified grief educator, and I am also the Chief Empathy Officer for Destined to Thrive Grief Coaching, which is my business where I support adults who have experienced loss. Of course, my niche is suicide loss, but have experienced loss, and they, like myself, they're ready to and willing and wanting to move forward. They just need a little help, need somebody to walk alongside them to help them to reach their goals, what they want to do, the now what, this has happened, now what. So that's a little bit about my story. Um, I say that it's kind of maybe morbid, but I enjoy doing what I do as a speaker, as a workshop leader. I enjoy it because, again, know I know that what I do is making a difference in the life of somebody. And how do I know that? Because people tell me that. People are forever, um, you know, just sending me messages or writing me notes, or when I see them out and about, they say, keep doing what you're doing. So that's what I'm doing. Keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, that's good. I mean, we all need somebody to walk beside us every now and again, don't we?
Yes, yes. To be better every day, we do.
Yeah, you're right about that. Um, so if you're into it, I got more questions you'll probably answer in the time that we have. So, um, one of the first questions that I had was it was about the legacy of your love for your son. And it's if your son could hear one message that you shared on stage or in coaching or on a podcast, uh, what would you want him to hear from you the most?
What would I want him to hear the most would be that he would be reminded that I'm not mad at him. Disappointed, yes, but I'm not mad. I don't understand, but I'm not mad. I Yeah, I don't understand, but I'm not mad at you. I'm not angry at you. I'm disappointed because I don't understand how you or why you wouldn't share your agony, whatever was going on that caused him to make that final decision. So, in essence, I would want him to know that he's still loved.
Absolutely.
What's one thing grief has given you during this and not away from it?
One thing that grief has given me is to know how resilient I am. I don't say so much about being strong. Other people say strong, but for me, it's more being resilient. Grief has taught me how resilient I am, in that how well usually I can adapt to change, and that's what it's taught me. It's taught me to be a better listener. I mean, I've always been a okay listener, but it's taught me to be a better listener. It's taught me to be quiet, even to count to three, count to five, whatever, before I speak. I think it's opened my mind up more. Yeah, and definitely more empathetic. And I remember when I took my grief coaching program, and one of the things that our leader, Coach Doris, said, she said, to do grief work, you have to have compassion and empathy. So I think that's what I would say that it has done for me.
That's good. I like the what you started off with there, resilience, because I just interviewed my granny last week or no, 2 weeks ago, and that's one of the things we talked about. And I asked her, does she think that we kind of forget how resilient humans are just in general? And that's the discussion we had. So when you brought it back up, it was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you feel grief changes the way people create, whether it's like in your writing or in business, or how it shaped your creativity since that since this has happened?
Oh, I would have to give that one some thought. I would just have to reflect on some of the things that I have written. I can say that I'm more, excuse me, I don't sugarcoat, and I just put it out there, and so for example, we tend to be protective of some words that we say. Um, like some people, they won't say died, they will say left, or they won't say just certain words. They may not say suicide, but I can't protect everybody. I will, if I think about it, I'll put a disclaimer out, say, hey, this may activate your grief. But the bottom line is I don't I don't concern myself so much of trying to say the right word, because in reality, if unless you stay in your house under the pillow with your head in a hole, you're gonna see some things, you're gonna hear some things. And a prime example is uh, last year, maybe earlier this year, we had a guest at our church for our family life segment. And the person talked about, I mean, it was during suicide awareness. So I guess it was a year ago. And someone did not like that there was no disclaimer. Okay, well, you could have turned it off. And actually, this person was was watching virtually. You could have turned it off. You could have left, you could have muted or whatever. So we can't, I don't concern myself so much with, am I going to hurt somebody's feelings or somebody's grief is going to be activated? Because if I did that all the time, then I wouldn't say much.
Yeah.
And it happens to me sometimes. Certain things will activate my grief. Certain people I see, words I hear, sometimes it will activate. My son called me Ma, M-A. If I hear a young man call his mother or say, hey, Ma, it's like, so I don't want people to stop talking about or calling their mothers because that may bother me. So that has really helped me to be stronger, to strengthen me when I hear things. So my writing may have changed in that vein, and to just put it out there, just say it,
Speak your truth.
not to intentionally hurt anybody, but to be truthful.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about balancing the deep emotions of grief with your demands that you have now with everything that you're doing in entrepreneurship with, writing and teaching? And I know you were coaching. I don't know if you still coach, but from what I heard, you got a lot going on. So how does that get in the way sometimes?
So what I do, Josh, is excuse me, and it hasn't always been this way. Like I said, I've been on this journey for 6 years now. So it hasn't always been, but now what I do is I practice self-love unapologetically. So for instance, I'm no longer doing a several podcasts a week, or I don't think I ever did more than one per day, but I've had times when I've done three in a week. That's a lot of grief talk. Or if I do a speaking engagement or something, I be sure to quieten myself before or quieten myself after, because it's a lot emotionally. So I just I've learned trial and error how to take care of myself so that I don't become so pressed down by it. Because again, it's heavy. It can be heavy. And then when I hear about people that I don't know, that really gets to me. So I have to turn it off. I have to turn off the news or the social media. When I open up, like 2 days ago, I opened up my Facebook account and boom, there is, I think it was, a gentleman who was in the penal system, retired, 53 years old, took his life. A few seconds, minutes later, there's a parent talking about a mother talking about her 35-year-old son who had, you know, left a wife and children and family. So it's like, oop, nope, let me just back off of this, because that can get heavy. And having empathy for people that you don't know, that can be very activating because you have an idea of what their family is going through, but you can't touch them. I can't get to to the Regina Kings and the mother to this person that I just saw. So yeah, I'm more aware of taking care of me in the midst.
Do you have like any grounding techniques that can like help other people, like when they're feeling that wave of grief and emotion come over them?
So a lot of times my main thing is I tell people to breathe. Just breathe. If you can breathe, because breathing makes you come present. Another thing that I say of more late is be where your feet are. Be where your feet are because that brings you present. And sometimes that's what we need to just to ground ourselves. Of course, the other, I guess you could call like yoga type of things. I don't actively practice yoga, even though I like it and I think it's a good way of relaxing and just getting your mind together. But my number one thing is to breathe. Just breathe. And when we do that and be where your feet are, it brings us present. And then I'll also, another one that I do is check in with each part of your body. How's your head feeling? How's your face feeling? Where are your shoulders? Are they under your ears or are they where they should be? Just to, get us to focus on self. And let's see. Oh, another one I do is getting in touch with the five senses, the five, I guess, dominant senses. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you taste? What do you smell? What do you feel? So again, that brings you present because you got to think about those things at the moment. So those are just a few of the things, the quick hits that I'll do.
The quick hits. I like that.
Yeah.
When you coach resilience, but grief often demands like a softness too. How do you balance being strong with letting yourself break down?
I think that's where the resiliency part comes in versus being strong because again, people say, you're so strong, you're so strong. I don't know how you do what you do, and on and on and on. And so, for instance, if I'm having a rough day, I'll put a post. I'm having a rough day. One of my number one hashtag is grief sucks. And if it's a sucky day, that's my post. Grief sucks. And it does. It's like a bully. You're going around along your day, minding your own business, and boom, here comes a thought. Here comes a visual. Here comes something. And so yeah, I'm I just be open and transparent. If I was feeling bad today, if I was feeling heavy today, I would have told you guys. I would have said, I'm feeling heavy today. So yeah, that's what I do. I let it be known. I let it be seen. Again, this has not been from day one. This is learned behavior, my lived experience that I've learned to do some of these things. So it's not just like, oh, I woke up and decided to do this the day after. No. This
Takes a lot of small
is my lived experience that I'm learning.
takes a lot of small steps to get this
Yeah.
far. Huh? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can jump in
Most
for a second. I think sometimes they say you have to, I mean, a phrase we use in the military is just embrace the suck. Yes, some days are not great. And we have to experience those days, and know that you're going to come out on the other side of it. I think the Bible tells God doesn't tell us that there's not going to be any storms, but he promises that He will stand beside us in those storms. That doesn't mean that the bad days aren't going to come.
Right.
But one thing Josh has taught me is you can't let the bad days win. And that's one thing I've learned from him.
Yeah, that's good. So most definitely, I last year, around August, which is when my son passed away, the month that he passed away, I was feeling a little heavy. So I just asked friends, I said, hey, you all often ask, what can you do for me? This is what I need. I need your time. I don't care if it's a walk in the park, have a cup of tea, a conversation. I just need your time. And honestly, guys, and I think I just asked for 1 week, and that turned into like 3 weeks of people almost every day, conversation, a walk in the park, just, being, and that just really helped me. So guess what? This year, I didn't even have to ask. It kind of happened organically. And of course, you know how social media will put out reminders or, like so people knew. And then some of my posts, alluded to that it was that time of the year again. But, several people just kind of were there. So again, it's learning and like you said, Josh, one step at a time, and um that's how I get through it.
That's
How I get
exactly
through.
right. I mean, not all days are going to be great. And I think we just have to, and a lot of times it's not that our friends or family don't care. It's that, I think we're all constantly wrapped up with what's going on in our own lives and our own struggles that we forget that sometimes people around us are also struggling as well. And sometimes they just need to they need to be reminded like, hey, just for a couple of days, I need a little bit extra, and so and that's, and sometimes, I know specifically coming from a masculine point, as a man, it's hard to reach out for help. I think a lot of men struggle with feeling inferior or feeling less than. And so they're scared to ask for help. A lot of men struggle with going to counseling. A lot of men struggle with getting on, whether it's antidepressant medication or anything like that. And it's stuff that I've struggled myself, and the veteran community as well is a huge thing that I have, that I support. They say something on average that 22 veterans a day commit 22 to 23 veterans a day commit suicide. And that's hard. And there's a ton of resources out there for veterans, but we get in the military, they get in this mindset of you don't go to sick bay, you don't let other people know you're hurt, you don't let other people know you're weak, And so when you step away from that lifestyle, a lot of those same traditions that you had in the military, same motivations that you had in the military carry on with you, and you tend to not reach out for help. And it wasn't until my wife told me, hey, maybe we should go see somebody at the VA. I noticed you're waking up disoriented, covered in sweat, don't know where you are. Like, maybe we should go talk to somebody. And that was when I was able to start dealing and processing my own PTSD and stuff like that. And I'm not going to lie, I've had suicidal thoughts before. But I just, I know that it, and not downplaying what happened to your son at all. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and I don't want to seem unsympathetic because I'm not, and I've had friends that have committed suicide. I have had friends that have died of drug overdoses, which I believe is somehow a form of suicide. But, as men and veterans and stuff like that, which is a community I'm really involved in, it's, it's sometimes hard to reach out for help. And I think once you get to that point where you are able to reach out for help, that's a huge step in the right direction for the person that's suffering as well.
Most definitely, I agree with you. Um, I've said I think we as society messed you guys up, messed men up as boys. Don't cry, don't act like a sissy, don't wipe your face. Boys don't cry, man up. All of these things, and when um for whatever reason a father is not in the family, with the family, then to tell an 8-year-old boy, you the man of the house now. What? Trying to figure out how to be a boy. So it's unfortunate that I really think society has messed, men. But the other part is that I truly agree with you. And Mac, I've got a couple of things that after we finish, I'd like to mention to you um, along the lines of being a veteran. Um, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it can be tough to ask for therapy or admit. And so that's the other thing that I'm learning along my way is that people don't remember. If I don't put it on my calendar, I don't remember, or if I don't see it on a post or whatever, I don't remember that last year, one of my friends lost a loved one or a job or was diagnosed with something. So that is one thing. That is one reason that I'm getting to the point of saying what I need or asking for what I need. Or if it's not a need, just say it's a rough day. I'm having a bad day. But the other part of that, gentleman, is because of my son's death. If I say I'm having a hard day or a rough day, they always think it's about that, and it's not always about that. It just maybe I'm having a rough day. Maybe I don't feel well. Maybe I didn't sleep well, but people will automatically assume that it's about my grief journey. So, I'm excited about, I guess, in a strange kind of way, I'm excited about educating myself as well as people that I meet along the way. And I really think we can serve justice to each other by sharing like this. I mean, we didn't know each other existed, until a few weeks ago, a few days ago. So, um, yeah, here we are.
What what does joy feel like now? Does it feel different than it did before? Have you noticed that?
Joy for me, I don't know if it's different, but I love that joy coexists with my sorrow. So many people, once they experience a loss, they they have a hard time experiencing joy and happiness. Um, for several reasons. Some people feel guilty because I shouldn't be experiencing this because this has happened, or I shouldn't, I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy of being happy or experiencing joy because of this. And I don't feel that way. Joy, unspeakable joy is mine. I can't change what the decision my son made. I can't I don't have any say so over what people will say about him. I don't have any control over what people will say about him, nor me or us as a family. So I get to choose. I get to choose joy, and I choose joy. Missing him, loving him, wondering why, all of that. But I'm still choosing joy for me because to not does not bring him back. To not does not give me answers that I'll probably never have. So joy is mine, and I one of the things that I try to do every day is something, whether it's a thought or something I read or something I do or something that I eat, to bring some joy to myself every day.
Like you got something to do to be a little bit better every day.
I try. Usually it's a warm cup of tea or a hot cup of tea, a couple of scoops of ice cream, a walk, you know, talking to my dog that he looks at me like, what are you talking? But yeah, but it's choice and finding and joy in big things and small things. Be grateful for all things, big and small. That's one of my sayings, all things. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all today. I really am, because I believe that somebody's going to hear this conversation and it's going to make a difference in their lives. Whether it happens or not, I may never know, but that's what I'm believing. That somebody's going to be better today because you all choose to be better.
I think that's one of the main reasons Josh and I started this podcast. We've been best friends for 25 years now or so, and I'm so blessed to have him as a friend. And we would always just have these great conversations, and it's like, you know, somebody would love to be a fly on the wall for this conversation. And so we just started. We talked about starting a podcast for about a year before we finally did it, and then, both of us lost our grandfathers last year, and so we bought some podcast equipment, and it was terrible. The first one was so bad. But we returned that, and we stepped it up a little bit, invested a little more in the podcast, and it's been great for us to share our stories and our struggles and stuff like that. It's been great for other people to not so much get comments, but just see that someone in Finland is listening to what we have to say, or someone in the Ukraine is listening, or someone in Oregon is listening to what we have to say. So it's nice to get that reminder. We don't do it for anyone else. I mean, we do it. We do it because we love to do it. And if it helps someone, that's awesome. And like you said, we may not ever see who it helps, and that's not why we do it. I love an hour every week or two getting to spend time with my best friend and picking a topic and learning more about it and diving into it, or if it's just about being better versions of ourselves. And that's what it's come down to a lot for me. Is I think I started to, after my grandpa died, I started to seep into my depression. I had let my weight gain come up to the highest point it was ever at. Josh and I, after the podcast, early on, late in November, December last year, used to go for walks and stuff after our podcast that we record. And then in March of last year, we recorded a podcast, and I got to the point where I couldn't walk for 5 minutes without my back locking up. I couldn't make it around the block, and we used to walk a mile. Well, yesterday I walked 5 miles, and today, Josh has lost. I went to, we did a couple of podcasts, but I went to Mexico in April and had weight loss surgery down in Mexico. And we kind of documented that whole process. Josh went with me. And before we went to Mexico, we recorded one. We recorded one while we were in Mexico, and then we recorded another one when we got back. I've since lost about 115 pounds. Josh has went with me as my companion. He's lost 50 pounds. He's probably at somewhere around 120 days of walking with no days missed. At least a mile every day and multiple miles most days.
Wow.
So, we've kind of been on this journey together to get better for the right reasons, I'm not trying to enter a strongman competition. I just want to
Speak for yourself.
I want to live long enough to see my daughters get married and meet my grandkids, So
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. But even what you just said, sometimes taking that walk or listening, because there may be somebody who because of their weight, they're thinking, I can't go on. I'm never going to lose weight. So I might as well just make the final decision.
yeah.
But to hear you say that well, I can lose 50 pounds, or I can walk a mile a day or every other day or whatever. So, sometimes it is nothing to do with, the actual thing.
I think part of my problem was as my children got older. My youngest is 9. I have a 9-year-old girl, a 15-year-old girl, and a 17-year-old son. And as my kids got older and more independent, they're less needy on me as a parent. Not that they don't need me, because they absolutely do, but I don't have to get up and fix cinnamon rolls in the morning because they can make their own bowl of cereal, And so sometimes I let my depression win by justifying that my kids are old enough to take care of themselves, and they're not. But right after I got back from Mexico in June of this year, I got a black lab puppy, and he requires a lot of my attention. So even on Saturday mornings, I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning because he's expecting me to be there to be out. And part of my weight loss journey, a huge part of my motivation, and it's made me a better parent. It's made me a better husband. It's made me a better dog parent. And a lot of the things I made excuses for before was just me making excuses and not anything that was actually a burden or a barrier. And so I think this last year I've had a lot of personal growth. I haven't worked in over a year. Um, I lost my job last year, and then 3 months later lost my grandfather. And so we've had a lot of struggles. Lost my mother-in-law last year as well. She passed away in March. She lived with us for the last 10 years. So it's been a lot of struggle in our household. Um, and it's good to see us come out on the other side of it. And there are days that aren't great. And I know there's going to be days that aren't great. I just try to make every day good.
Well, like when I
And that's a part of.
oh, I was just gonna say,
No, I was just going to say that's a part of what we do, and why we do it, and why we say, every be sure to say every day is not what you see. What you see on social media is just a 3 seconds or 30 seconds of, my day. And so I think the more transparent and vulnerable we can be, the more that we can help someone else. But we've got to take care of ourselves. We got to be emotionally, you know, healthy to be available for that other person.
Yeah, you got to put your oxygen mask on first. And I think
Yeah.
right now my wife is struggling with, her mother passing last year and being in the home and trying to figure out what her role is now that we're not a multi-generational household. Um,
Yeah.
and, I sometimes think that she gets frustrated because she sees me excelling and doing well, but I'm only doing it for my wife and my kids, and myself as well, because I want to be here for them. And I'm not going to be, I can't encourage them and lift them up if I'm not being the best version of myself as well. So yeah, I know I'm taking a little more time out of the house because, I'm going on these longer walks and stuff like that. And, I encourage anybody that wants to go with me. Hey, I do I do 3 miles, 4 miles at a time, but we can make a loop and pass by the house if anybody wants to take a lap off. And so, but I'm doing it for them. Yes, my body is reaping the benefits of it, but my family's also reaping the benefits of a father who's more present and not laid up in the bed smoking cigarettes. I quit smoking October of last year. Um, involved in all these vices and stuff like that. And they really, my family's really gotten a father that and a husband who wants to lead the home, and not be just someone in the background who's earning a paycheck and providing health insurance for everybody. Someone who wants to be involved with their kids and wants to be at all the school activities as much as possible. Um, so I'm just thankful for this last year. I'm thankful for this podcast. I'm thankful for my friends.
they were thankful for you.
We are absolutely thankful for you sharing your story with us, Miss Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love it because those things that you talked about that you've been through and dealing with, those types of things are what so many people keep inside. And those are the things that lead to the suicidal ideations and the plans. So for you to be able to show up for yourself and for your family, that's huge. That's huge. And to be that transparent, I think that's huge. And I applaud you for doing that. I really applaud you for doing that. I wish I lived a little bit closer. I would take those 5
Hey, we're not
From the south side.
I,
We're
not afraid to. No, we walked in Mexico. We are not afraid to travel.
I don't mind traveling. I really don't. I mean, I have family all over. My brother-in-law and his family, they live Rural Point area almost. Mechanic
Right around the corner from me. I'm out
301. Yeah, they live over there. So everybody in our families are across, I call it across the river except for us. So
That's what we call it too.
the plan to meet up one day.
We avoid crossing the river, but we'll do it. We will do it to come walk.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll come to you all. I don't mind crossing the river.
Um,
That's how our families are. Well, my family not so much, but my in-law family, y'all live way over there. Okay,
My mother-in-law said that.
but
It happened south of it. God, river that.
it's so silly. It's easier for
yeah, especially
it's easier to get over the south side than it is to go to the other side of the county. But I'd rather go to the other side of the county than cross the river.
yeah, it's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing, but
All right, I have a few more
yeah,
questions.
definitely.
And
Okay.
what's a question about grief that you wish more people would ask or rarely do ask?
A question that I wish people would ask more frequently or ask. Hmm. I'm trying to think of how to put it into words, but I think it's about being just asking the question. Okay, so let's put it this way. Some people that I've run into since I've been on this journey and otherwise, they will not ask questions. They'll think they're crazy. They'll think that they are wrong for feeling this way. So I wish people would just say, you know, am I crazy to be thinking 5 years later, 10 years later, that I'm missing my person? Am I, should I be further along the way because, I see Mac getting up and doing XYZ, and his grandpa passed away the same time mine did, and all I can do is sit in the chair and cry. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be like him? I wish people would be more open to talk about things like that, to ask, and because grief is everybody's journey. I mean, everybody's journey is different, even for the same person. I mean, I don't know if you all have siblings, but if your sibling, if you do, your siblings may be grieving grandpa's death in a totally different way. And and then Mac may be going, well, how come they are acting this way and I can't? So I just wish people would be not afraid to be more open. And I wish we as a people would be more open to hearing and to learning about what the emotions, the grieving process. So yeah, that would be my wish, that the people would just be more open to have conversations, to ask questions, and not take it personally if I say, you know, I don't want to talk about it today. Don't take it personally. I just don't want to talk about it today.
I like that.
Don't take it that, well, she got an attitude today. No, I just really don't want to talk about it today.
Yeah. And you get to share on your time, not on somebody else's time too. If you could travel back to the first week. Oh, sorry, it says you were connecting back. Um, if you could travel back to,
Yeah, it went a little wonky.
if you could travel back to the first week after your loss and whispers something to yourself, what would you say?
You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It doesn't appear like it today, but you're going to be okay.
I like that one.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like you don't, you know, that first week after your son passed was the first time in, 29 years or whatever that you experienced for 30 years.
30 years.
Life with that.
30. He was 30.
And so
Yep.
you don't know how to move forward, and to be able to reflect on that and be able to tell yourself that I am going to come out on the other side of this and I am going to, uh, you know, and I know definitely it's hard to look at, your story as a blessing, but look what it's brought you and look what it's brought you to help other people that are going through a similar situation. I'm sorry that it had to happen like this, but it looks like it's delivered a new passion for you.
Yeah, and I don't know the specific scripture, but since you all mentioned scripture earlier, there is the scripture that says to give thanks, excuse me, in all things, not for all things. I'm not thankful that my son died, especially the way he did. But I am thankful for several things. One, he didn't hurt anybody else physically. Nobody else got hurt physically because of his decision. I'm thankful that he didn't leave us broke. Financially, he was secure. Um, I'm thankful that I didn't choose to die with him because I've heard of people, whether it's parents, whether it's siblings, whether it's spouses. I just want to die. I don't have any reason to live because my child is not here. I'm thankful that that's not me. So in all things, I give thanks, not for, but I can still be thankful.
I'm going to share a bit of our family story with you. My wife lost her first son at 16 months old, had a rare form of meningitis that kind of was unique to him. The doctor missed it and kind of diagnosed it as an ear infection. And by the time he had a seizure, his brain had swollen to the point where it was crushed by his skull. But in his passing, an outpour of donations came in. They wanted to help the family and stuff like that. My wife took those donations and donated it to the church and was able to start um, uh, a youth ministry called Kids Stuff. They took those funds and put it towards what they already had in order to start this children's ministry. So yes, I'm so his passing was so painful for my wife, and she still struggles with it 20 years later, 21 years later. But you know, the ability that those funds were to bring so many children to Christ and stuff like that, um, has been a huge blessing. So yeah, it is tough and you do struggle with it. Um, and while I'm sure they would have found the funding somewhere for it, we're thankful that my wife and her ex-husband and everything were able to help out in that fashion.
Yeah, and that's legacy. Though he lived a short period of time, but that's always comes back to him. It always that's part of his legacy. So yeah, yeah.
If you could rewrite the way culture teaches people to approach grief, what would your first lesson be?
Don't don't try to tell anyone how to walk in a pair of shoes that you've never walked in. Just don't. um, and that grief is the emotion that's experienced after a loss. You know, a loss has happened. Loss being something that we loved or somebody that we loved or cared for or cherished that we no longer have access to. And so my response to that is grief. And then how I manage that's the grieving process. And so I would just make it simpler. I would make it simpler. Um, And then there is the and I'm just going to say church people. There is us who are the church people who um, get get so high and holy that we forget that we are human, or we forget that people are human that's experiencing a loss. And so it's just, just pray about it because God said this, 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 this. Well, how many people have we read about in the Bible that cried, that begged out to God, that cried out to God, that was angry with God because something happened? So definitely in the church arena, I I I would do things a little bit differently. Taking nothing from God, because then that's where that hope comes in. Because I always want to bring people back to hope. That's where your hope is. That's where your strength, you can draw your strength from, that hope. But one thing that I say, excuse me, you all got me on my soapbox.
Go.
One thing that I often say is in church, we teach people how to die. We teach people how to die. We prepare people how to die, right? But we don't teach the people that's left. We don't remind them that you may experience these things. You may experience anger. You may experience sad. Not you may, you will. The most people experience sadness. They experience maybe guilt. They experience so we just tell those people, oh, just pray about it. So yeah, that I would start with some of those things.
What's
And again, that's my lived experience. You all's experience may be different, but that's my lived experience. And that comes from my personal lived experience and what I've experienced with other people.
I have like
And oh my goodness, don't say suicide. Do not absolutely say suicide, because you know your person is going to spend eternity in hell if they die by suicide. That may be true, but is that the thing that the grieving parent, sibling, friend wants to hear at that time? No. So you don't have to throw that in my face. And in all actuality, you don't know. You weren't there at that last spoken word. You really don't know.
that's what I think
So
too. I don't think we know. And I
yeah,
think an all loving God is still all loving no matter what.
yeah. So that's some of the things that I would change.
What's the one piece of advice you find yourself giving the most to your client? Or to, I guess now, people you
What I, excuse me, breathe. Give yourself permission to grieve. Give yourself permission to grieve. Um, and so that entails not being feeling guilty for how you're feeling. Be okay with not being okay, but really give yourself permission to grieve. Um, I don't understand it, gentlemen, but some people um, feel like they are going to forget their person if they grieve, or somehow it's going to dishonor their person if they grieve. Um, but yeah, I say give yourself permission to grieve. You make the choice of what you want to do going forward. You make the choice of how you want to honor your person's legacy or not. Again, it goes back to relationships too. Everybody doesn't have the best relationships. Some people have great relationships. So it's personal, but you get to make the choice how you want to honor them, and then you get to choose how you want to live going forward, what you want to do with your life. And it's okay to be trial and error, because what works this month may not be what works for you next month. So there's your laser coaching session. Give yourself permission to grieve.
somewhere the acronym.
Think about the good times that you had with Grandpa.
What's the acronym?
Sting. Sting, yeah. That's about the stigma of surrounding suicide. So um how to effectively navigate this stigma of suicide. And so I came up with the what works for me, and I call it Sting, and it's stop giving the thing whatever the stigma is um, that you may be experiencing as the result of losing someone to suicide. So whatever that emotion is that you're dealing with, stop giving it so much energy. If it's guilt, I should have done this, I should have said, stop giving that thing so much energy. So S is for stop. T is for turn. Turn away from that and to what can I do? The I is to ignite that fire within, ignite that fire that says, you know what? I'm going to thrive in the aftermath of this mess right here. I'm going to plant a tree, start a nonprofit, ignite that fire within. And then once you ignite that fire, nurture it, because for anything to grow, we got to nurture it. And then G is to grow from it, grow in grace and gratitude. And I've been asked before, how do you get gratitude out of grief? What we just talked about a few minutes ago, being what we can be thankful for, um, instead of looking at the what happened. Let's look at the memories. Let's look at the light. So that's my STING acronym. And it's actually a workshop that I've created where we will go through it and, do the exercises and talk about it and share. So, yep, that's STING. STING the stigma.
Thanks for sharing that. So, two more things I want to get into. I know you got to go. We're almost right at an hour. My last question is, well, actually, it's like a two-part. What's something people can do to be better every day? It's something we ask all the time. And your favorite quote or Bible verse or anything like that.
The thing that I believe people can do to be better every day is to choose yourself. Choose yourself so that you can be better every day. Choose you. Say yes to you.
And favorite quote or Bible verse or something?
I'm going to share my quote that I made up. Um, Reflection causes one to pause, to think about what was and how what was will affect what is and is to be. I'll say it again. Reflection causes one to pause, to think about what was and how what was will affect what is and is to be. So when I pause, I think about what my life was with my son, our one and only child, and how what I had with him, will affect what is and is to be. That's my reflection quote.
Nice.
Well, I want to say before you wrap up with a Bible verse or whatever you choose, um, I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on here with us and sharing your story and your son's story. And while I know, losing your son was very, very difficult, you seem to have come out on the other side of it and been a source of comfort, for others in a similar situation. And if that's how God chooses to use you, then, you're doing the best you can with what you have. And I'm so thankful that we get to sit down and talk with each other. And I'm looking forward to a walk. I can promise you that. And I just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and tell everybody about your book, your workshop,
Your journal.
social media, everything.
So I last year, well, I'll share my Bible verse and then I'll tell you about a couple of things. So last year, I do something kind of around March was Daniel's birthday. His birthday is March 16th. So usually around that time, I do something. Sometimes my husband and I do something together. But last year, I published a journal and it's geared toward the survivor of suicide loss. And it's a journal that has space for, it has prompts, it has space for reflection, it has space for like a little memory, um, pictures or cards or whatever. It has some resources. So it can be found if you can see it. Yeah, it can be found on Amazon. If you look under my name or my suicide grief journey journal. So that was my solo book project. I have been um, co-author in a couple of anthologies. Um, my workshops are the Stigma, the ABCs of self-love, because I believe in practicing self-love unapologetically, especially if you're on a grief journey. Um, and what else? Oh, my website is www, it's a long one, www.destinedtothrive.griefcoaching.com. I am on Instagram as Grief Coach Lynn, and I am also on Facebook and LinkedIn under my name, Lynn Lewis. I think that's it.
So you're pretty easy to find and get a hold of. That's what you're saying.
I am. Yes, I am. And I have an email. Some people still use email. That's destined to thrive at outlook.com. And for anybody that's reaching out to me by email, if you could just put, excuse me, be better every day in the subject, and then that'll make me know that you heard it from Mac and Josh on podcast.
I just found your book on Amazon. I'm going to share it with Josh so that we can add that to the description as well. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We're so grateful to sit down and talk to you.
Thank you.
And like I said, you are our first, video podcast that we've done, other than Josh's grandmother. The first one we've done remotely where we weren't in the same location. So,
Oh, okay.
So we're learning. We're trying to be better every podcast, evidently.
exactly.
That's like our goal.
That's wonderful, wonderful.
So if anybody wants to be a producer and come show us how to do this, shout us out in any show notes. And
Wonderful.
we always like to finish by saying, remember, be better every day.
Be better every day. Thank you, Ms. Lynn.
Remember to be better every day.